Okay, so the time has come to install all of the flat toe stuff on our Jeep Grand Cherokee. This is the 22 Jeep Grand Cherokee. It's called a WK is the body style. I have three things I need to install here today. The first and foremost is the base plate. Now, the base plate is the part that is the physical connection between the RV and the Jeep. And that's this stuff right here. Need to interrupt myself here for just a second to clarify. Yes, the base plate is the physical connection between the Jeep and the RV, but that's kind of skipping a few pieces in between. The base plate is really the piece that allows you to connect to the tow bar. So you've got the base plate, then the tow bar, and then the RV. This is not going to be a detailed how-to of every little nitty-gritty detail. I want to show you the overall project and the three things that were involved that I had to install on the Jeep to get this thing going, as well as some tips and things that I found along the way that might help you out. But I will have links down below to each of these products on eTrailer. And the reason I say go to eTrailer is because on each of these product pages, eTrailer has their own install videos. In fact, the one for this Blue Ox baseplate that we're going to install, there are 3 different videos showing that same baseplate on 3 different types of model years of Jeep. So between all the videos that eTrailer has, you should be able to find one that's specific to you. Those videos on eTrailer are what saved me thousands. You know, my first instinct with this was, holy crap, I got to tear apart the Jeep. Not really something I want to get into. But when I called around and got estimates for somebody else to install it, the cheapest I could find was around $3,000. So I can watch some videos, I can take some notes, and I can save $3,000. Another cool thing on those product pages is a little Ask the Expert section. Those are really cool because guess what? You can ask the expert. You just put your question in there and somebody from eTrailer will get back to you. I did that on one of the parts that I am installing. But just to step back a little bit here, what the heck is flat toe? You'll sometimes hear the term flat toe. You'll sometimes hear the term dinghy. You'll sometimes hear the term towed. And those are all basically towing with all 4 wheels of the vehicle on the ground and just a tow bar to tow it. Flat towing, in my opinion, is the best way to go. Now, not every vehicle can be flat towed, so be sure to check your owner's manual. That will be the final say on whether your vehicle can be flat towed if it's got procedures in there. You see, the thing is with flat towing, you've got to be able to disengage the entire transmission so all 4 wheels can spin freely. So we've already got our Jeep Grand Cherokee that we know can flat tow. As I mentioned, there are 3 things we're going to install. We've got a base plate, we've got some brake wiring, and some lighting. So let's jump in. That's going to involve pulling the whole bumper fascia off and a couple of other things out to be able to bolt it on. Of course, I'll have to cut some holes in the grill for those things to stick through. The other thing I have to install is a brake system. Now, there isn't much to install for the brake system because it's the kind that sits on the floor and pushes the brake. It's inertial. But the thing I have to install with that is the breakaway cable. The breakaway cable will be on the bumper, and it's just like a breakaway cable on a towable. If that thing pulls, this thing sets the brake and stops our Jeep from going off and doing whatever. The part that's going to be tricky on that is I have to run the wire up through the firewall to the driver's side where this brake system is going to sit. The third thing I have to install today is wiring for lighting. And for that, I've got a lighting wiring kit, and I've got, this is the connection cable. It's a 7-way to 6-way. And then this is the plug where that will connect. I gotta hand it to eTrailer here. eTrailer sent us this stuff to try out in Blue Ox. Everybody I talked to said Blue Ox was the way to go, including Phil, Today is Someday, and my friend Scott. They both tow using Blue Ox tow bars and much of this gear. But anyway, today is going to be, I think, a full day of taking the Jeep apart and putting it back together. I do have a couple of things that I bought for this. We're going to be drilling out some plastic rivets. So I got some plastic rivets and a little plastic rivet gun. I also got some extra push pins and push pin removal tools. That's always good to have working on any vehicle. You always have those all over every vehicle I've ever had. I'm going to throw you on a time lapse here, and I'll pop in during any surprises or things that I want to show you. So let's go. so far so good. The directions from eTrailer and their video have been spot on. As you can see, I've got the whole front end taken apart, all the bumper fascia and all that. So as I've been taking stuff off, I've been putting them in order so I can figure out where they go. Reverse order to put it back together. The next step after I get some breakfast is going to be to start mounting up the base plate hardware. That's fun. I'd also have to figure out, because it wasn't in the video, how to get these things out. Probably gonna have to cut a little bit in these for the breakaway and the wiring, but the base plate connectors will go through these. Just gotta figure out how to get those out. All right, next morning, I was able to finish up the base plate install last night. So that is all done. So let me show you what we got here. It's actually a really pretty simple device. If you look, this is the actual place, the base plate. The hooks, click in here, can click out. I'll show you more of that later. But you've got 2 bolts here into the frame, coming in there. You've got 2 bolts on the bottom going into the frame. And then you've got the support plate over here on both sides going into the frame. And then you can see, as a safety measure, just in case all of this fails, there's also a kind of a breakaway cable that keeps the base plate attached to the frame by the cable. Now this was a little tricky. You can see I kind of had to twist the cables. I twisted them so they are under tension on purpose, so they don't rattle. I would imagine when I first hooked this up and I didn't have the cables, kind of tight, it was very rattly, and I could see that driving me nuts. So that is done. The physical hardware part of the base plate is all done. So I have 2 projects today. One of them is for the braking system and is, of course, a breakaway cable. And the kit that I'm using is a new one from Blue Ox. I think it's the Gen 3 of their inertial braking system. That's this guy right here, and it's one of those styles that fits on the floorboard and pushes the brake, but it's really nice and small and light. The kit comes with the breakaway cable. It also comes with cabling, and this is the part that gets plugged in to the brake system. So I just got to figure out a way to get that through the firewall. Now, I did a little online research this morning, and I think there is a firewall pass-through right down in here. I can run through that, kind of zip tie off to some stuff here, run it down, and mount it on the bumper here. I can't tell if you can see that or not, but trust me, there's a little grommet hole that comes through there. So that should be super, super easy. I can route it through firewall there and across and over to the driver's side. Here's the end that will get wired to the breakaway switch. And it goes up through that hole over there, across under the dash, comes out right here. When you spend a lot of time on the road and sometimes off grid, you start thinking differently about power. And lately that's carried over to our cabin also, especially when the power goes out. And all you want to really do is maybe power your refrigerator to stop your food from spoiling, and maybe some electronics like our Starlink and our laptops. Just a couple of weeks ago, we got some crazy ice storms up here at the cabin, and the Bluetti Apex 300 was a huge comfort for us. At its core, the Apex 300 is a portable power station that is designed to scale up if you need it to. Out of the box, it's a 2.7 kilowatt hour unit with plenty of AC power to handle essentials like a refrigerator, our Starlink, lights, and electronics. Going beyond that, it can even power a full 50 amp RV like this one without needing any kind of permanent installation. It even has full 240 volt split phase. That's cool. Functionally, it's very plug and play. You just turn it on, plug in what you need, and it just works. And because it has extremely low self-consumption, it's well suited for long run times on things like fridges and other low draw devices, which is exactly how we needed it during that ice storm. What makes the Apex 300 interesting long term is the expandability. You can add external batteries and stack them underneath, and you can scale it up over time to build a bigger and bigger systems. We do plan on adding a solar panel to ours at some point, just so we can have that extra flexibility when the power goes out at the cabin. And that's really the theme here. The Apex 300 gives you a flexible starting point without locking you into a big system on day one. If you want to learn more about the Bluetti Apex 300, use a link or QR code that is on the screen. We'll also have links down below. Thank you to Bluetti for sponsoring today's video. So the breakaway wiring actually turned out to be pretty easy with that hole and that grommet, and we're done with that until I actually go to mount it on the bumper. So now let's jump into the wiring. So here's how this thing works, this wiring harness. This and this go in the driver's side tail light area, and these are just pass-throughs. So you got, you know, an in and an out. You're basically sticking these two in line in front of the tail light. And then this runs over to the passenger side. And then I got to run this all the way to the front. It looks like I can run the whole thing sort of down along the frame and outside and not have to deal with coming in and messing with the trim. The taillight wiring using this harness is actually really pretty easy. I started by running the passenger side wires down the driver's side, so then I could take them across the passenger side behind that bumper and fished it up to the passenger taillight. I did have to loosen one screw on the bumper to get enough room for the connectors to pass through. I had to do that on both sides actually. Then it's just a matter of unplugging the brake and turn lights and putting the harness right in between the taillight and the Jeep wiring. I really like this type of wiring harness, and this is why I picked it off of V-Trailer, because you don't have to do any cutting or splicing or anything like that. You just unplug and plug stuff in, and that's all that's required on the taillight portion of this harness. I then fed the lines that'll go to the front of the Jeep down through that driver's side taillight, and I just let that lay on the ground while I connected that side's taillight. Just like the passenger side, I did have to loosen that bumper like I mentioned to be able to fit that control box down behind the bumper so I could reach the taillight. I'm finally at the phase where I can put everything back together. Let me show you what we got here. I've got the taillights wired, and then I ran that wire up over the suspension stuff, and then there's a little channel all the way along here, and then I came up through here. There was actually a tiny little hole down there, so I ran that just like on the other side through here and then out here. Those written instructions that I had with the time markers and stuff, I'm just going to kind of follow each section backwards and put it all back together in reverse order. Once I get to the bumper phase, I'm gonna have to figure out those little cutouts, figure out how to get those out, and figure out how I want to place my breakaway cable in my 6-way. Before mounting the breakaway switch in the 6-way, I reinstalled the washer fluid reservoir. Then I went ahead and mounted my breakaway on the passenger side of the front bumper. From here, I cut the 4-way that came with the taillight wiring harness and wired a 6-way in its place. This connector that I'm installing on here is from a different kit than the actual taillight flat toe wiring system. It also has a 4-pin and a 6-pin, but it also came with wires that I don't need for flat towing. Those are a 12-volt power supply and the brake controller. Don't need either of those right now, so I just wrap those up out of the way. I may need them in the future if I ever get an RV with an air system or something, but I don't need them now. All I need are the left turn signal, the right turn signal, and the brake light. So for those 4 cables, I just use waterproof heat shrinking butt splices that I can just connect them right together. Super easy. And if you're wondering, yes, all the colors matched up, so nothing to worry about there. But before I connect this thing to my bumper, I do want to make sure it actually works. I got this connector wired in, connected to the truck, hazards on, and bam! Lights work. Okay, morning of day 3. This is quite a project. Let me show you what we got here. We've got our base plate installed. That's these guys here. Got my breakaway cable here. My lighting 6-way connection here. All of my wiring. You can see this is my lighting wiring, all secured up under here. Over here is my breakaway cable wiring. Kind of secured that up out of the way. That goes to the driver's side floorboard area. So I think we're ready to put the bumper on. I'm going to have to line it up and then kind of mark where I need to cut. So I was right originally. These are where the base plate are lining up. Yeah, as you can see, it lines up there perfectly, so I got to get those out. So I'm looking at this thing, trying to figure out how to get these out, and it looks like maybe this whole piece attached along the edges here might be sandwiching this plate in place. So I was wrong about those tabs and that thing pulling out and releasing those. The plastic in those little inserts here is not separate. It's part of the entire piece that goes across the front. So Dremel tool and plastic cutting it is. The Dremel tool with the plastic cutter is perfect for this. If you don't have a Dremel tool, you should. They are great for all kinds of projects. All these little weird things that you got to do, Dremel tool can do a lot of them. So I just cut out the sections and filed down the edges on both sides. Then I hung the bumper back on to see how things lined up. My cutout's done for the base plates. See, those line up nicely. I mean, it looks like I could have spared some space on this side, but I think it would have looked dumb cutting through the middle of this. But now the problem I have is my 6-way is a little bit low. So let me get this bumper off and see if I can figure out a way to move that up. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. This thing is designed to mount here. It can slide up as far as here. So if I cut between these two bolts, I can slide this all the way up to the top here, which is where I need to be. All right, here is my modified plate. But that should line up nicely. Modification successful. This looks pretty good here. I'm going to go ahead and just cut it while it's on here. It's going to fit pretty well. All right, I was on my last step, into a little bit of snag, not a big one. Got to cut a little bit wider here for this. I've made a couple marks there. I'm going to take this wire bundle, route it up a little higher, and I'm going to bend this plate back out of the way. Looks like maybe this wire could stand to go up a little higher too. I'm kind of snagging a little bit on that. So day 4, I think. I got the base plate and all that stuff finished yesterday. That all looks great. Here, let me show you. Base plates, breakaway, and lighting. So at this point, the only thing left to do before I actually hitch up to tow for the first time is to put the tow bar onto the RV. And that's just a super simple, stick it in, put the pins in. It's just like any other type of thing you put into your tow hitch. The first time we tow, I'll be putting that Blue Ox Patriot braking system into the driver's side floorboard. And of course, that's when I can connect my breakaway cable to that. This project was big. It took some time, but hey, I saved at least $3,000, so it was super, super worth it. If you've got some mechanical skills and can watch a video and take notes, I think you can do it too. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to subscribe so you can see next week's video when we actually hook it up for the first time and actually go traveling with this thing. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week.